Are you looking for a faster video? Well, today it's a live stream and I know you're probably looking for a really nice and tidy edited down video, but I have ways for you to make it faster. You can click that little gear on the YouTube settings right there on the video and adjust the playback speed, make me sound like a chipmunk, and it'll go a lot faster. You can also look and see if there's timestamps for this project in the description, and if you're on a desktop, you can hover over the time bar at the bottom of the screen and see if it's chunked up into chapters, and then that way you can go directly to the step you're looking for. And lastly, you can also tap on the screen on the right hand side of the video picture or on the left hand side to make the video jump ahead, forward or backward if you're on a mobile device. And you can adjust that amount in your settings so you can have complete control over how much it jumps. So if you are on a desktop, you can use the fast forward or the rewind, and that will make it go faster as well. You can also enable subtitles, and the little CC on the screen will enable closed captioning. That way, if I am a little bit harder to understand with that double playback speed, the subtitles might help you out. All right, well, I know that it's not a nice little edited video, but if you sew with me, we'll get there together and it'll be lots of fun. And now for the live stream. Happy sewing! Hi! You guys have no clue how good it feels when you see a ton of comments already in the chat when you start a stream. Like, trust me, it feels really good, so thanks. Look at all of you guys and gals. Hi, Claire. Hi, Jennifer. Hello, Elena. Yeah, lurking is great. No worries. Hi, Hannah. Hi, Ray. Happy Soda Day. Hey, Sarah. You're making one soon, Jennifer? That's awesome. I've made a few. In fact, I forgot I made this one and my husband reminded me, so I thought I brought it in as an example. Hi, Sue. Hi, Delvin. Hi, Terry. Hi, Amy. Yay, you're here at the beginning. Hi, Christina. Christina, is it you that's about to have a baby? Hi, Molin. Nice, Jennifer. That's awesome. Yes, all the pattern. Okay, you guys are all making me nervous now. I didn't really even prep for that. I'm just going to do what I do. You're probably all going to be like, oh, there's like these fancy ways to do this. Hi, Lynn. Hi, Margie. I don't think I've seen you before. And Marilyn, too. Welcome. Hi, Ketri. Nice. Lots of newbies. You're all very welcome here. Beverly, hello again. Libby. Libby, your coat, your blazer. Awesome job, awesome job. Oh, it is you. Okay, I figured that was you, Christina. That's awesome. You kind of cram in a little bit of sewing. Oh, there's something in my shoe all of a sudden. What is that? What the heck? Oh, that is kind of painful. It's probably bark. Hello, Made by Pam. How's it going? Okay, I have to do something about it. What the heck? What is that? It's a rock. Oh my gosh, look at the size of this thing. It's like a legit rock. Look at my shoes. Aren't they cute? I know they're filthy, but aren't they cute? No one gets to see them but me, really, and Michael. Yeah, that blazer turned out fantastic. Good job. That smile on your face is just really awesome. Sorry, I gotta tie my shoe. Otherwise, you know, I'll fall. And that's my one thing I plan to never do live on camera is fall. Okay. How was your week? How's it going? I didn't take yesterday off. I worked at home all day, but it feels like a Wednesday. It feels like I haven't seen you guys in forever just because I worked at home all day. That's so weird. And I was like, why are all my video settings kind of still close to where they should be at? I realized, oh, I didn't turn my computer off because I thought I'd be here yesterday. So, anyway, Ray, how long did it take you to write all those? Did you start writing one and then you were like, oh, I gotta add these people? All right, so this is the men's Fairfield button-up. The sewing will be very similar to any women's button-up you have, like the Archer by Grain Line, which I've made a few times. Let's see, what's the difference? I mean, it buttons left over right. The Placket has the little pleat here. And I'm going to be doing the tower style Placket, which I actually didn't know that term until like last year. Or column style. We always call this a shirt sleeve Placket. But now folks call it a tower or column style Placket. This is like straight out of my husband's closet. Like I didn't iron it or anything for you guys. This has the flat felled seams, and I think they're on the wrong side. Because this is the shirt that I put, and I'm going to show you why. I put the sleeves on inside out and backwards. Which you'd think by the time you did it inside out and then backwards that they'd be correct. But they were not. So it was quite a rude thing to discover right before Christmas. And then on my brother's, I did something really similar. And it's because there's a funny quirk about this pattern when you go to cut it out that you have to really pay attention to. So here's another view of that tower style Placket. This was my trial for the video. And on the inside, why is that so hard to turn a little sleeve? It just has the little piece of bias right here, and it's all tucked up inside, nice and clean. When it goes well, it's nice and clean. So then it would look like this on the inside. And then, you know, that's what it looks like when it's split apart. I think sometimes knowing what it's supposed to look like is so helpful. So you are, that's awesome, Libby. Oh my gosh, would you guys really meet in person? Flat felled seams, you like those, Terry? Me too. Yeah, so if you don't want to do flat felled seams, I'll talk about that as well, but this pattern comes with them built in, I think only on the armhole, side seam, and underarm. I'll double check that. I'm going to cut it out just like the pattern has, just so for those of you who want to do it. If you don't want to do that, though, you just need to change your seam allowances on those spots. And it says in the instructions, you know, I think it's like, there's a 3/8 on this one and 5/8 on this one, because the seam allowances are different. It's not like a French seam where you use the exact same size seam allowance on each side of the seam. The flat fell has one that's a little offset because you're going to wrap it around. You're basically hemming over the edge. So it's very satisfying. I'll bet people have done it without knowing they're doing a flat fell when they're kind of in a pickle and they're like, shoot, I need to finish this and there's no way to finish it. What if I hem this? Can I hem a side seam? And you absolutely can. You can do whatever you want. So yeah, so Terry, it's 2 different seam allowances. So I would just figure out what you're comfortable with, because you're basically, like I said, you're going to sew the seam, and you sew it right sides together, which is the opposite of a French seam. I mean, you could do it front to the inside, but usually you sew it right sides together, and then that little bit that's hanging over, you hem it over. So I would just figure out what you want. So dang, I want to go. My husband's going to be gone then. He'll be in Germany. But, so I can't leave. Like, our house situation with pets is not leavable right now. All right, and then this is the back. There is a pleat back here and a yoke. There's a option for a darted back. So if you want a slimmer fit, or if you want like a suit, undersuit coat type of fit. So I would love to. I was supposed to go to Sweden the summer of the first year of the panini. What is the link to the pattern? It's the Thread Theory Designs website. I'm not affiliated with them in any way, but it should be pretty easy to find, and I can put a link in the chat in just a second. Hi Penny, how's it going? You do? Awesome. We're gonna get yours finished. Let's see. we'll find it and put a link in the chat. Let's see. Fairfield Button Up by Thread Theory Designs. Okay, so I have a question about this, and let's look at the listing. Where's the chat? Here it is. So here's a link to the pattern. So there was an update to this pattern this summer, and I'm curious if anyone else got that update. I'm looking at the description to see if it says why, because here's the deal. I don't see anything about it. So they updated the pattern, but unfortunately, I didn't notice that. So it said this thing like, occasionally we find a typo or something small and we will update the pattern. And they just explain like, that's, you know, what happens when you get an updated pattern. And if you bought a PDF and your link won't work anymore. So here's the new link to your new version of your PDF. And at the very end, so I didn't get all the way in because I just read all that and I was like, oh, okay, standard issue stuff. At the very end, it said, you don't really need to reprint your pattern if you don't want to. We just found a typo on the Carmino hood. And I was like, oh shoot, this is default language from an update to another one of their patterns. And I don't know what changed between 1.5 and 1.8. And I'm kind of sad about that. I did not ignore it. I put it in my folder. I put it in my thing. But, you know, I've made like, I think I've made 7 of these. So, you know, but today I wanted to print out, I wanted 2 separate patterns. I want one for my dad and brother and one for my husband, rather than kind of monkeying with, I grade it. You guys never want to see me do this, but I grade it as I'm cutting it out with the rotary knife using these pattern pieces. So that's not the best way to do it. I just thought, oh, it'd be so nice I could do this mindlessly since we've had some issues with inside out and backward sleeves. Hey, Terry. Oh, you didn't get an update either? Check in your folder. You might find it. Use felt to muslin a leather jacket or something like that. Felt is a tricksy animal. It can be kind of stretchy. Yeah. Oh, yeah, Penny. Yeah, I really wish it would have said... And if it was like right after the update, I would have emailed and said, hey, do you know what changed? Just because now I'm like, maybe this thing I'm about to warn you about changed. And I don't even need to warn you about it if you buy the pattern. So if for those of you who get it, I guess I could open it and look. I just didn't want to compare the pattern files because maybe it's a change on that, because there's 2 fit files. There's average and larger. I can't remember how she terms it. Maybe it's a change on the larger file and I'm printing the average file. You know what I mean? So I don't really know what it is that's different. And so I don't want to be passing on like, watch out for this. And you're like, I didn't see this at all. So, all right. So here's the big thing, just so I'm not trying to keep you in suspense, but you'll notice that all these pattern pieces, they will just say, oh, this is a little too bright, huh? Here's my plaid that I'm matching today. Let's just tone it down since we'll be seeing the pattern pieces mostly on top of the fabric. Do this. Is that better? It's a little better. It's not that great. It's going to make the fabric look pretty bad. I'll bring up the contrast a tiny bit. Okay. So you can see that on these, you can see that it just says, you know, cut 2, right? Here's the back. Cut 1 unfold, but you get to the fronts and you need to put these pieces. I do not know why. I'm really sorry, Thread Theory. I love you, but this is too confusing. You have to put these face down. All right. This has pretty much caused me grief every single time I cut this out. The first time I cut it out live on camera, I didn't do that, and I luckily had enough fabric, and I noticed it between the cutting and the sewing stream, and so I took this one, you know, flipped it. I took this piece that I had cut right side up. My fabric had no right and wrong side, and that's what saved me as well. In fact, I think, oh no, it wasn't that one, it was the other one. No, it was that. I don't know. Anyway, and I just cut the placket off and used it for the other piece, right? Whichever one was narrower, because these are almost identical. I think that's what it is. One was a little narrower or something. Or maybe I cut the placket off and I sewed it on. I don't know what I did to save myself. And then I just recut one front. Hey, Walter, how's it going? So that is the thing you need to do. So if you're not, like, so me, I make this as a gift to a lot of the guys in my life. And it's like, it's the holidays. I get some, you know, like Ghirardelli's peppermint, like, candies, and I get some cocoa and, or, you know, whatever, peppermint mocha. I put on, like, Love Actually on Netflix, and then I just cut. And then when I'm sewing under deadline, yeah, anyway, rest is history. Yeah, it's, I don't understand why it would be like that when literally, if it was, oops, I forgot this is men's leftover right, which I doubt that's what happened. You could just literally flip the pattern pieces and in the file. Like, I don't understand at all why it's like this. So anyway, none at all, Hannah. There is absolutely none, because you can't see any of your markings. So maybe this is what got updated, right? So, all right, and so the only other thing I'm doing is that I'm gonna cut all my interfacing pieces the same as the pattern pieces. I'm just gonna do it that way because I want to, but you can cut the actual, like all these pieces, the cuff, the top collar, the under collar, and the collar stand all have their own interfacing pieces. For the cuff, it's the same. I don't know why there's two pattern pieces. This is only interfacing, it's the placket. For the collar and collar stand, there are separate pattern pieces, and they're probably like a eighth of an inch smaller all the way around. I'm trimming down my collar, so I don't really feel the need to do that. And I don't, it's just a preference, okay? The other thing that's interesting about this pattern is that you're interfacing both the under collar and top collar. Classically, you would only be interfacing the top collar. I'm going to do both. I don't mind. It's a nice, you know, shaped collar. So here's the cover of the pattern. I staple a piece of manila paper kind of halfway in my thing because I hang this up on a pattern hook. So some of my patterns look like this. They're a little tatty. So sizing wise, the average sizes goes from a 36¼ inch chest to 46-inch chest, and then the larger 40 1/8 chest up to a 50-inch chest. So basically 36¼ up to 50-inch chest. Neck is 14.5 to 17. I don't see the garment measurements for the larger. Yeah, so there we go. All right, let's do it. I have all these. This is what I do. I give myself helpers when I'm making videos on how to sew things. I make things very obvious for myself. And I think on this pattern, you don't quote me on this right now, but I'm pretty sure you have to trim this off to make this pattern work really easily. So yeah, see, Lynn, there's no reason to like you know how we talk about sewing success and how pattern companies design a lot of patterns. In my opinion, I've never heard anyone talk about this, but my opinion is that a lot of pattern companies will I think they design something so that people are more successful sewing it, so that, you know, that's good for them, right? Because then people share it. So I think if you are really concerned about success, you would want to print that so that people don't make a mistake at the cutting, you know? Because it's not a small amount of fabric that you use. Hi, Elizabeth. Chocolate talk. Oh, what are you guys talking about? Oh, did you get some fabric you can't figure out? Oh, the felt. Yeah, a lot of felt from the fabric store is poly wool. Oh, yeah, Terry, I've seen that. But it's like this, it's butted up against, right? And then you'd have like a hole for a buttonhole. I have not seen one of those in forever. Yeah, so basically it's like two plackets. You sew them down the center and you like stop for buttonholes and then you fold them apart, you know. Oh, it doesn't give much, Sarah? You might try it. What could you use for leather as a good muslin? I mean, I think your idea of felt is probably going to give you a really good idea. Just remember, it can give a little bit. I say go for it. You know? Just be careful ironing it. Because some of those wools aren't wools. Those felts aren't wools. So you just don't want to melt it or something, you know, if you do too hot. But you can still probably iron it. It's probably going to be fine. All right, so we're going to set aside the button sleeve placket, the collars. I'll probably leave the yoke out right now. We're going to take out all these pieces. I'm going to just hold on to we're going to start with the fronts. And I'm going to put the back, the yoke, and the sleeve also aside. Let me move my sweater and this shirt here. Okay. So if you really want to make sure you're matching your plaids well, definitely do it one layer at a time. It takes a little bit of time and extra time and space because obviously my table's not wide enough. But, you know, simply put, this is what I hate about this pattern is I can't even see. Let's see if there's a right or wrong side with my fabric. I feel like there is. I feel like there's a slight difference, but I wouldn't consider one to be right or wrong. This one is, which one's softer? It's supposed to be flannel. Oh, this fabric was sent to me by Minerva as one of their brand ambassadors. So I got it for free, which is nice. I feel like this side is softer. It's very lightweight too. It's not as stiff as that one I made over there. It's got a lot more drape. So let's look at where our center front is. So hopefully it's marked. So the buttonhole is going to be your center front, right? And it's marked on there right there. See that? This is so confusing that it's printed upside down. You know, this would be something interesting to do. Isn't there is it Elena that did the experiment with Adobe where you can edit your PDF? So let's do this. Let's be kind to our future selves. And we're gonna transfer these markings. Sad but true. I'm going to use my tracing wheel. I don't really need this grain line here, but because it's parallel to the center front, but we'll put it on here. I'm going to mark the pocket. This just makes holes, perforations. Yow. The seam allowance is marked on here, so you can tell how much you're given. So on the back pieces, you're given 1/4 of an inch. And on the front pieces, you're given 1/2 inch for that flat felled seam. So this is the little notch. Can you see that? Gosh, can you even see that? Right there. See that? that is your seam line. So then you have a 1/2 inch on the front and a 1/4 inch on the back because you're hemming the front over the back to make a flat felt seam, right? Yeah, it's true, Penny, they do. And it's actually pretty quick too, surprisingly right now, you know. All right, so now we have, there's notches here, and these are the fold line for the placket. So we're doing 2 things right now. We're transferring our markings because these patterns are aggravating because of the fact that they're printed on the back side. And we're also going to establish our center line and where our placket overlaps. And that is literally should just be your center front. You don't have to sit here and do all this fancy folding as long as someone marks their center front on their pattern piece, and they didn't. So we're going to have to figure it out. And then that way you know when your shirt overlaps like this. So we'll do the center test again. So here is my, so let's pretend that this is my buttonholes and these are my buttons. And so when my shirt's buttoned, right, these lines line up. That is your center front. So you have all this extra, and when your placket's finished, you know, there's placket back here and it probably goes to here, right? Because your placket's going to be centered over this center line. And then you know, want to make sure that your plaids match when it's buttoned up, right? So that's what we're thinking about right now. So it depends on how really, you know, tedious you want to make this and how much you want to match. All right, so let's, so this one has the buttons marked. So that is our, basically our center front. So we know that when the buttons and buttonholes line up with each other, that is the center front. And these are the buttonholes. They're a tiny, tiny little circle right there. Tiny only because we have cameras. I can see these. I don't even need to transfer it like this, but we're just doing it just to underscore. Here's our grain line. All right, we're gonna flip. We're fixing this for once and for all. This is a tried and true pattern. You might as well do this for yourself. At least I should. This is not my grain line ruler. Dang it. I'm gonna need a new ruler. Okay, so I'm lining up all those perforations that I just did on the buttonholes. Here is a notch, a notch, a notch like that. Here are my pockets. You can start seeing it take shape. Left front, size small, cut 1, right side up. And we'll do the same. I mean, this just take me a few seconds, you know, so you might as well do it, right? So the grain line can be kind of useful for plaid matching as well, especially if it goes off the end at the top and the bottom. So these are my buttons. This is not a grain line. This is my center line. And all these notches are like fold lines and things like that. All right, and so the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mark the seam allowance on here, on the side seam. So I don't think that it's the same on all these edges. So I'm not going to mark them all until I know. And I'm going to write flat felled as a reminder. That's awesome, Ray. Yeah. I mean, you know, I feel like that could be kind of a really slick looking, you know, buttonhole. 1/2 inch. All right. We don't have it marked on our armhole. I could swear that the armhole's flat felt though, so. All right. And then the last thing I'm going to do, I'm covering this up. I'm not going to use my Sharpie to block it out because see that? You can see that you can see my ink through there. You think like for the collar, are you talking about the collar stand, Ray? I mean the buttonhole for the collar. All right. I feel like I just righted a wrong of 1,000 centuries. It feels so good. All right, so we're gonna mark center front and center front. Sloppiest pattern drafter ever. But I'm not really, I promise. All right. This is so much easier for me to understand now. All right, so just to reiterate, so this fold line right here, so this one has a whoop-de-doo in it to make it's a fake pleated placket. And so what happens is you sew this together, pretty sure, wrong sides together at the top and the bottom right here at these notches. And then you get this little pleat. So you're gonna sew it like this, right? So fold it. Is that right though? Wait, I'm not sure that's right. Because I would have to catch that in. How does this go? This is the fold line for sure. Let me see. Can't remember how this one does it. Oh! Yeah, because see how this is a fold on this is the inside. This is the inside. And see there's this little pleat. And then you can see that this is there's nothing, no seam here. So this is just sewn on the right side. But it's caught, you catch it in there. So why doesn't that reach right now? The fold becomes a seam, but look. That doesn't get caught in there. So is it wider than that? I've only made, 6 or 7 of these. Hey, Eliza. Snaps are also a good way. Yeah, you don't need an extra placket piece. That would be a higher end placket. Fold it there. Yeah, fold again at the second. Okay, wait, that's that one. That's the other. Wait, no, that. Fold at the first notch. fold up the second notch like that. Oh, maybe that's it. Oh, okay, okay. So you fold up this first notch, and then you fold all the way over like that. And then you stitch that together, pretty sure. Quarter, and that's 1.25 inches. Okay, that's what it is. All right. I just want to understand right where this is going to end up, right? So making sure that if that's how that goes, this is the part I'm matching. All right. And on this one, you just fold it back. This one goes underneath. It doesn't need such a fancy pleat. And then it lines up at the neck, all right? Yeah, so fold it 1, fold it 2. See, mine's just losing its little bit of angling there. All right, cool. So now we know that this right here is the area that we're matching, right? We don't really care if the under placket matches. And then the same with here. So you're going to figure out where you want, what you want to be front and center. And most people are going to pick like the plaid because it's easy to line things up to it, right? So then you can take this and line up this center front line on, you know, let's make it go all the way to the bottom, because otherwise you're just eyeballing it. Don't draw on your fabric like I'm about to. Does this one go all the way down? Let's make sure this goes all the way down. And if you want, like if you're kind of suspicious if it's really going to work or not, maybe cut out a little piece of fabric. So let's just cut out a piece of fabric and we'll test it. We have plenty of fabric, right? All right, so let's just test it. We should label matching lines. Well, not everybody's making it in a plaid, you know, so that would be nice though, wouldn't it? All right, so let's put this one, we're gonna fold this up so we can see it. We're gonna put it right in the middle of this plaid, all right? And now we're gonna cut it out. Gee, I wonder why my pattern's losing its points there. Okay, so there's my left front. And then we're gonna put this center line on the plaid too. Do I have enough? I do, barely, right here. So you can't just butt up your fronts to one another. It won't work. You have to have a few repeats between so that you can allow for the placket. All right, so we just determined that we fold this back like this. We fold it on line 2. I need some pins. Let me get some pins and we'll pretend to sew it. I think if you're ever worried about if something's gonna work, it's not worth being worried about. Like, that literally frazzles our nerves and we're trying to, you know, enjoy the sewing process and relax. It makes us gain weight, makes us not sleep well. Worry is like, it's just not worth it, right? So make yourself feel better by doing a little test. All right, so do that, and then we're gonna fold it along that line, and then we'll pretend like we're sewing. I mean, this won't be perfectly accurate, but and if I were alone, like if I wasn't streaming right now, I would just be at my sewing machine trying this out, right? What's wrong with that, Sarah? That's awesome. Figuring out the commands. Okay. So now we have this little guy here, but let's do one more pin here to kind of keep that pleat in there. And then this is how it would finish, like this, okay? So let's pin this down so it stays flat. Ray's got such a great sewing DVD collection. All right, and so then this is this one, right? So we fold here and we fold here. Obviously we'll be more accurate too when we're sewing. All right, and so our center line is right. Oh, I do have chalk. I have chalk here. Right, our center line is like right here. I don't know if you can see that. It almost matches my fabric. But here's my center line. We'll just do a little black line here. And then our center line on this one is supposed to be right here. All right, moment of truth. I'm nervous. So this one goes over this one like that. Oh, I forgot to do it this way. But if we matched it going this way, it would indeed give us a full repeat if we sewed this better, right? Does it? Let's see. I'm not that happy with that. Let's look at this. So if this is this one here, right? So if that is lining up like that, did I just not fold that in the right spot? Maybe I didn't. Maybe I didn't cut it in the right spot. That's right there. It's that pleat. Oh, is it right here? That's where it wants to be. Look at that. That's where it wants to be. All right, well, wait. Let's check this out here. I can see all these messages and I'm like, oh no, everyone's telling me how to do it. Hey, Sydney, how's it going? All right, let's check it out. We put this one. This is why we double check, right? We put our center line right there. Yeah. And our center line should be right there. So did I just not cut this out very good? It's between this one here, right? It should be right there. Maybe I just didn't sew it very good. This one. And then this one. I get determined. But I want my plaid to match too, so this is it. And that is where the center should line up right there, but it's not. And you know what I think it is? I think it's the thickness of the fabric. You guys are like, who cares about sewing? All right. I know that this works. I think I'm just not being very, look at that. I didn't cut that very straight, but that's, you know, that's not a big deal. But I wanted this to be in the middle there. And it's almost in the middle right here. Right? So there's my center line right there. Here's my center line, right? Okay. I know I didn't do it this way, but we'll make sure we do that. We're going to use our armholes as a guide for that. All right, so that ends up being there. Let's try this one. Doing this tiny little thing probably wasn't the best idea. So this should be more like right there. All right, and then there's my center line. Right? Here's my fold line. Here's my fold line. Let's be precise because of the thickness of the fabric. So it's folding on this, just inside that orange line there. So we match up our centers. Oh, I didn't catch that right there. This is so fiddly. Should have just done a proper one. But I thought, you know what? Let's just wing it. That doesn't really calm my worry nerves, does it? Hey, D-Mac, how's it going? Wait, I thought you had a wedding today. I almost texted you and said, have fun at the wedding. It's probably not this early, though. That's I guess. D-Mac just bought his first suit. Looks so good. All right. All right, leftover front. Match up my this ways. Okay, I think we're back on track there. My problem with this is it does nothing for the plaid. You know what I mean? Like, it really doesn't showcase the plaid repeat of that wide, this right here. So maybe a better option would be to use the center. And I think I've seen that before where they say don't pick the motif, pick like in between. And then that way, you know, your plaid is matching and, you know, you're like this whole thing right here is kind of getting buried in my badly pinned stuff. And the pleat, see the pleat is hiding this orange over here. See, it's tucked in there. I'm really glad. Oh, it was yesterday. That's awesome. Well, I'm glad you made it home safe. I was a little concerned that you had to drive that far. Yeah, we're making a men's button up, and I'm proving my point of how to match, and and it's not matching, you know. So it's going great. So when you're streaming, just remember you don't have to match plaids live on camera. Oh no, Malin, see? I feel like that's what the thing is. You just don't realize what's going to come up sometimes, you know? And so I don't really have problems until I really try too hard. All right, so, but I'm going for it. Yeah, right, Elizabeth? I mean, that's the thing is like, in the back of my head, I was thinking, you know, I've seen people say don't use the motif, the like main feature of the plaid as your matching point. And I thought, yeah, but the thing is, that's such a good guide and people are going to do that. So let's do that. All right. Yeah, so D-Mac, it's a straight button up. This is what we're making. I've made a bunch of them. And it's just nice little staple. This is the men's shirt. I have the lighting way down low right now because the pattern pieces are so bright. I was asking my husband, I'm like, so by the way, I'm making you a shirt today in this, and this plaid is kind of crazy for him, you guys, but it's in person, it looks really good. Now, if you can see in the camera, it's got this like olive green which I think saves it. I like it. And I said, you know, so do you have any requests if I make you one? And he was like, no. I said, so I've made you I said, have I made you a long sleeve one? I think I've only made you like the short sleeve. He's like, you've made me 2 short sleeve and then the light blue long one. I was like, what? And I was thinking, he's thinking I made one of his store-bought shirts, and I was kind of insulted. Even though I know we should all be flattered when someone gets a store-bought confused, I was thinking the opposite. So, but he was right. I forgot about that. That's the one I blocked out of my head because of the whole sleeve issue from the pattern being printed upside down. All right, so all that to say, I'm going to use this center line and put it on this piece here. All right, so let's make sure our plaid is relatively straight. You know, I didn't iron this. I'm just cutting it. And so I do think when you're looking at your armhole point here, pick something that is really easy to recognize. You can do the hem too, but I will say one tip about the hem is if you have trouble, especially with these shirt tail hems, I know these shirt tail hems can be kind of a pain to hem, especially if you're using a different pattern, it's more swoopy. So this is my advice. Don't put this center front part at where the plaid is. Kind of try and put it in this area where there's no plaid, because if you don't get it quite sewn, like you might get your fronts to match perfectly, but if you don't get your hemline perfectly straight, it really, really shows when you have a plaid. So that's my tip. You can even put some of your hem in this so that you have as much as possible, because this is going to get rolled up, right? So I can just put that kind of right there. So if I put this point at this line here, and then I'm going to also focus on my center line being in the center of this olive green section. And then, do I want my armhole point 1/2 inch above, or is it easier for me mentally to line it up there? Okay, so my last little thing to think about, because your plaid might be a different size and scale to mine, and mine is also a 2-way plaid, which means I could actually cut it, and I know this would give lots of you a heart attack if I did. I could cut one piece upside down and one piece right side up, and it would work out. Now, there are a lot of plaids that are not 1-way, they are 2-way, so make sure you don't accidentally cut your pieces that you think are going to match, and they will match for like this much, and then it won't, going up and down. So I didn't have a choice, Lynn. I just was like looking for fabric, and I was like, well, I really like those mammoth plaids. This was they had 2, and the other one was too dark for the cameras. So, all right, so this thing is like this distance here. It's kind of a weird number. Not that a number is weird, but you know what I mean. All right. All right, so yeah, so the other last thing I want to say is same thing, this whole spiel I just told you about with the hem goes for right here at the neckline. So pick your battles. If your plaid is going to make you do both, then maybe just pick which one you're like, I'm much happier fighting this than fighting that. So I'm not too worried about that though. All right, so I feel pretty good about that. I just want to make sure that it's straight, because it doesn't look straight right now. So we're just going to pull this a little bit over here. All right. This is so far away from me. I'm like, ooh. So my other tip is to draw on your pattern pieces where your plaid is, because that is really helpful. So in general, you can't always match your center fronts, side seams, and shoulders. So you have to pick where you're going to do that. And so a lot of folks will focus on the shoulders and then realize the side seams can't match if you do that. One way to get around that is to put your yoke on the bias. It does mean your yoke's on the bias, but you could just put the outer yoke on the bias and the inner yoke on the straight grain. And then you don't have to match anything. If that really bugs you, like if it calms your brain to not have to see it mismatched, I would just put it on the bias or something. But you are gonna, it'll probably match in some cases, like vertically, it just won't match horizontally. They're all different. All plaids are kind of different. And you're talking about fabric, so you have to be nice to yourself because fabric is wiggly, right? I'm going to kind of make sure this is straight as I go. And try and be precise, because we saw by my example, obviously not being precise was making it not work. But you can also fudge things as you go if you're a 1/16 of an inch off. I say fudge it. Like, make the plaid match and deal with the fact that your placket might be a 1/16 of an inch narrower, an 1/8 of an inch narrower, because you're going to be far happier to deal with that than your plaid not matching by like an 1/8 of an inch or something. That's just my 2 cents about that. All right, so let's see where we're at here. All right, let's do your notches. Be precise about these too, especially when you're doing your plaid matching. I hope I was precise when I transferred the markings. And then we're gonna also, well, you can match the pocket, but say you do all this plaid matching and you just don't have enough fabric to do that. You can put your pocket on the bias too. That's your backup plan. Oh, because you want the fleece to be against your skin. Yeah, and that's another a really good tip, Karen. We talked about that the other day, or maybe I wrote it on an Instagram comment when someone was saying something. But that's what they did in old school before there was digital stuff and marker making softwares. They would photocopy the pattern and tape it to the pattern piece, or tape the fabric to it. And for stuff like this, they would nail it to the table. Same with knits. They would nail it to the table, old school. It's the old school way. So if you're doing stripes, stripes are a lot easier. Stripes you can actually, especially if they're just horizontal stripes, you know, a lot easier. You're just going to do something like look for a landmark on your pattern, you know, like, okay, I want to use the armhole. I'll put a, you know, perpendicular line to your grain line and use that as your stripe matching thing. We already cut that. I was like, wait a minute. So see, I am going to lose a little fabric because I can't get all the way in there, all the way up to there. It would cut off my pattern piece. So this is why some plaids, like if you're doing a really big plaid, that's why you kind of have to allow for a little extra fabric sometimes. You just draw it on. Yeah, that's great, Jennifer. I don't know, Sydney. If I was using switch, it has fleece. Well, if your pockets, it's got lined pockets. Okay, so one thing I've done, I'm not sure what your pattern pieces look like, but my recommendation is you can just make one side of your pocket in the fleece and the other side in lining. And the side that you should do the fleece is put the fuzzy side against the back of the hand. It feels the warmest like that. You know what I mean? So you'll be using the fabric's wrong side on the inside of the pocket, but it's, people think that putting it on the palms is the soft and coziest, but it's not. It's against the backs of your hands. It's so much cozier that way, in my opinion, and that's how we always did it. All right, so where's my front here? All right, so we're gonna look at matching this up as far as the line goes. This way, the horizontal. So then we want, I'm going to go by the bottom because the bottom is not all jiggity jag like the neckline is. I'm really taking my time because I'm so nervous it's not going to work now that you're all watching. This is why you don't sit there and drink hot cocoa and watch stupid Christmas movies and cut your stuff out without thinking. Or live stream. Alright, so on that one, we knew that this armhole was about, it's only a 1/2 inch above that line. And look at over here, it's a more than that. So let's work on getting the fabric to be straighter. The good news about this is that you spend so much time cutting it precisely that it ends up sewing together pretty good. Because you're like, oh wow, everything's working out pretty good because I was worried about the plaid matching. So let's see. I'm going to measure that amount there. And then we're going to put this on. This is landing right here on this dark line here. I'm kind of talking out loud. But I still can't get this to be just a 1/2 inch above. So let's check our pattern pieces. Are my pattern pieces a little off? Because they really could be. I've cut this out so many times. And it is. It's a little bit off. I've trimmed this one down a little bit more. See that? I have a little chunk missing there. Have I told you my spiel on don't ever cut your pattern pieces around your pattern pieces out with your rotary knife? No? Oh yeah. Oh, yeah. Now I am. Okay, so that on that dark line. And then this is in the middle, right? Middle. Let's look at the side seam here. If we were to sew it together. So the other thing to think about when you're matching plaids, especially if you have some really big seam allowances or maybe it's a pattern piece that, you know, where it's sewn together is far in. Thing to think about is it needs to match on the seam line, not necessarily on the cut edge. Right, Sarah? Thank you. Yeah, that's nice, Sydney. That'll be cozy. See, so this is down here. Look at that. This is probably, maybe this one was a little wiggly. It's a little wrinkly. So we may end up losing a little bit at the armhole or the underarm in order to make it match. Because I will do that just to make it match. Don't cut the paper. I have 2 more of these to cut out today too, but they're solid. Oh. This is really awkward to be so far away. All right, I'll do my notches. You don't really need a notch on a point like that, but you do on the valley. You know what I mean? You wouldn't ever notch a point. All right, so our fronts are cut. The only thing we need our fronts for now is the pocket, matching the pocket. I'm going to put all my pieces, I'm saying this out loud, I'm putting all my pattern pieces right side up of the fabric in the bin like that. So I cut out another version of, or not another version, I cut out printed out the pattern so I could have another version of this in another size. It's 45 pages, you guys. And I feel like that maybe this was made back when there weren't some of the PDF things that we use now. I'm just looking at my pattern pieces to see if any of them are on the length grain. Let's check them out. No. This is. That is, and that is. Okay, cool. We can use that on the side here. That is too. This is interfacing. And then we have our pocket. All right. So should we match the pocket? It'll look so good if we do, you know? So let's do it. All right. I don't have a bin. All right. Oh, I did have a bin. Oh, it's got the other fabrics in there. Okay. So this pocket, it's kind of like floating out here when I look at these points here. So here's your other backup plan with your pocket. So say you can cut it with your fabric, meaning your fabric being on the grain line, not on a bias. You can move your pocket around a little bit on the shirt. That's okay, you know. It doesn't have to be exactly where it's positioned. So if you're like, well, shoot, that's a little bit off, that's okay. You know? All right, so we have, lift this up and look how good you are. And then remember, you have a hem, right? So you want to line that hem up right there. There's easier ways to do this, and I'm kind of forgetting right now how to do this. I have a trick for this, and I can't think of what it is. Maybe it's this. Maybe I stick my pins through like this, like this. And I'm just going to line up my hem to where those pins are poking through, like that. And I'm going to center the pocket on there, like this. And now I'm going to, I never do this, I'm going to pin my pattern piece to this while I pull all this other stuff off. So I don't have to worry about it. And you have to do this for each of your pockets, but your pockets should be the same, right? And theoretically, your fronts are in the same spot. And then open it up. You guys are so quiet. It makes me nervous. Well, these lines were on the straight lines of the plaid, which is comforting. And you know, if you have to recut this piece, it's not too big of a deal as long as you have enough fabric, right? I probably could have moved it all the way down here though, you know. I could have gotten that right there barely. That would have saved me a bit of fabric. Living large here with the, how do we feel about 2 pockets? Do we like 2 pockets or just 1? Because I might as well, right? I could cut another one right here. I think it has to be the reverse though, like this. Doesn't it? I think it might. But I don't have markings on that. I don't have markings on the other one, so that would take a bit. But we could put 2 pockets on it. Maybe I'll just save this little piece and we can think about it. Ooh, could I get my collar stand right there? Or my collar there? I could. Let's do that. All right. I'm gonna move you right there so you don't land in the trash. Oh, we have this. Oh, I could put this here. Same thing on the sleeve placket. If you don't want your sleeve, like if you don't worry about your sleeve placket matching, you could put it on the bias. You're gonna need to interface the heck out of it though. He does use one Walter. I don't think he uses both. Ray's like, yes, too. This is the right placket. The other one's the left. I think I want to see where this lands on the shirt sleeve to see if I want to match it or not. I don't know. I don't want it to look weird, so I think I'm going to hold that aside and do that. All right, so as far as your collar, there's probably a lot of popular and unpopular opinions about this. You know, I'm going to go with the, using the print. This is the under collar. What do we think we would like? I mean, it's such a big plaid, you know? Do we want this to be our collar going around? It's kind of a big collar, or big print for a collar, isn't it? Like if this was the collar, you know? That's awesome, Charlie. Karen. You think that's a 70s collar, Walter? It's not. Not at all. It's pretty minimal, honestly. Yeah, my husband is actually very particular, but we've been together a while now. I kind of know. But like the brown fleece pullover I made for him, the North Star pullover, it came out so beautiful and he won't wear it. I can tell. I wore it all day yesterday. No, not yet, Libby. I think that I'm going to wait though to cut the back because I think I'm just going to go with how it matches the center back neck. And it's probably going to be here. And in that case, I might cut it on the cross grain. So we're just going to see where we're at that point. You want a big plaid collar? He won't wear that. I'm not doing that. All right, let's get these out of the way. All right, so we have our, as far as big pieces go, we have our 2 sleeves and our back. There's too much stuff here. I need a bin. Oh, I bought a bunch of buttons the other day. I think these will be okay on there, just like standard old tortoiseshell. These are the other 2 Fairfields I need to make. They're the Robert Kaufman as well. This is a bright blue version of this. Look at that. You see the little, can you see the chevron in there? Nice. I'm consistent. Those 2 are for my brother. Sorry, just a lot of pattern pieces over here. I need to clean up a little bit. It's big stuff when you have the fabric unfolded. And my cuff. Okay. All right, so usually you want to cut everything, you know, flat, like a single layer if you're matching a plaid. But if you have a pattern piece that's on the fold, what do? So I would cheat and I would cut it on the fold. Or the other thing I would do is I would actually draft this so that it wasn't on the fold. It would just be one big pattern piece. I think that's just better, personally. But I'm not a big fan of pattern pieces being on the fold ever. That's kind of my thing. All right, so here's our side seam. I'm way more concerned about the side seam than the shoulders because the shoulders are the yoke, right? So these aren't even attached at the shoulders to each other. So let's find our plaid here. And if we want, we could even make the repeat so that it actually is continuous, not just by lines, but by the amount of plaid in between. Then you're going to have to look at your seam allowance. We're going to go all out on this plaid matching today. All right. So we have this right here, right? So because this has a shaped seam here, it's not going to be perfect. But we could overlap this right here at the seam line. So here you see here's my, can you even see that? See, there's my underarm juncture here. And we could overlap it there at the seam line. Now, we also have to remember that the seam allowance on the back of this particular thing is narrower than the front because it's flat felled. So there's a lot going on here. Why won't he wear it? Oh, he won't wear it because, I thought I mentioned this, the neck hole position isn't right for him. It fits me great, but his head sits forward a little bit. And so what happens is it looks like the back neck is going down like this in the center back. And then it swings out at the back. This is a fit issue he has. Everything pools in my center back, and for him it swings out. It fits him really good. It's just that weird, the neck hole needs to come forward. So if I ever make it for him again, I'd have to shift that whole thing like this. So yeah, that's a pretty specific fit thing. I didn't do a muslin on him because, you know, like most things fit him pretty good. So, you know, you strike out sometimes. So here's my seam line there. All right, we have to go one repeat up because we're not going to make it. All right, so we want this edge on that same line that this one is at the center front. If your back hem is longer, remember that. So focus on your side seam right here because sometimes, you know, the back is a little bit longer. Do you, Mullen? A forward head adjustment. See, I've never even heard that term. But that's exactly what he needs. All right, so let's see. I'm going to pin this. Just a couple to start over here while I arrange everything. I need to get this closer to me. It's just too far away. And then I can also see now if the center back is on the straight. You can always, this is another thing, is if you didn't cut off your paper, so when I cut out my pattern pieces, what I usually do, I haven't done this in a long time, so you haven't seen me do it, is when I cut this pattern piece out, you see how it has a wavy line? I go like this. I don't cut it out on the fold line, and the reason I don't do that is so that I don't accidentally cut it not on the fold. So that's just my little thing that I've taught myself. If I see a wavy line, and usually it's wider, I probably just didn't have much, this is probably really close to the edge of the paper. So usually I would have like this wavy line, and that's my trigger. Oh, this piece is on the fold. And I leave that there because it's also really handy for doing this, where you can pin on that fold line. Come here. I think I need this to go down just a tad. You can pin on this fold line just to the left of it, or just to the inside on the garment side, right? Like this. And then you can pick up the paper and flop it over and then do your pattern matching again. Hey Carrie, how's it going? Oh, see, that's so interesting, Lynn. Yeah, we're all so different. it is so fascinating. So now look at where this plaid ends up being. So this right here, this like main motif, it's not on the center line, but remember there's a pleat on this. So if you really wanted to make sure that your pleat was going to be, you know, like this, you're going to have to think about that. So what would I rather have? Would I rather have this be on the center of the back, or would I rather have this repeat look seamless? I'd much rather have the center back be in the center of a repeat, and then just make sure my matches are horizontal instead. All right, so we're shifting. Right, Libby? Yeah, me too. So I just a long time ago was like, it was a particular pattern that I could tell. I was like, oh, the way they had drawn on it didn't look like it was on the fold. Like, this is very subtle. Like this, you can't even see this line, can you? So, you know, the other thing you can do is really make it, you know, obvious for yourself, right? But I don't always read that stuff when I'm cutting. So yeah, you just figure out what works for you. What your eye goes to, not for we're all so different, you know, like you just got to figure out what would trigger you going, wait a minute. The other thing, you know, is sometimes I would put pins across on the paper only. I would just do this to make me go, oh. So the last thing you want is to, yeah, do that. All right, so is that how I want, is that going to work for my pleat? So let's see. Oh, wow, Carrie, dang. Carrie, I think it was you that said bulk bin black licorice was really good, and I was like, So I went to the big city, you know, of 80,000 people last week, or this week, Monday. And so I was like, I'm going to my old grocery store. Mind you, I never really liked this grocery store, but now I miss it because it has so much more than the one we have now. And their bulk bins, they're open right now, which kind of shocked me because so many bulk bins were just like closed. And so I was like, I was looking for almonds, and that was the only place they had them was in their bulk bin. And they switched them all to non-scooping, which I love because I hated the scooping kind anyway because of germs. And I was like, oh, there's candy here. I'm going to look for that black licorice. And they had it. I got some, and it's actually pretty darn good. I'm definitely eating my words or my black licorice. So I just wanted to admit that to you. I'm pretty sure it was you that said that. Might have been someone else. I've been meaning to say it all week. So, all right. Is this really going to pleat the way I think? So if I go like this, is it really going to, yeah, I think that should. There's something happens funny with plaids and pleats sometimes. I can't think of what it is. Yours are, yeah, awesome, cool. I'm glad that I could finally admit to you. Not bad, Libby. Just saying. It is the Australian style, but it actually tastes pretty good. I don't want to pin this. All right, I've got my fold line in the center of this plaid motif. That's what I'm going for. But I have my matching going this way on the side. If seeing me do this makes you go, oh my gosh, I don't ever want to have to match plaids, just know that I'm being really extra cautious. So, and I'm not saying you shouldn't be cautious, but it wouldn't take you this long, I promise. And I say too, just focus on a couple of key spots. All right, so now we're gonna mark or do our, you know, notches. And we're gonna flip. Like that. I mean, we're matching plaid, so honestly, This is like the one time you can pick it up and flip it and you're probably going to get it right because you've taken so much care. You should probably fold this little edge first before you do it though, because mine's obviously not behaving because it's never done this before. Get that nice and flat. There you go. All right. The other thing you do is flip your fabric over. So let's see where we're at. You want it like way over here, like right there. And we want this right here. All right. That looks pretty good. Right? Oh my gosh, the rain's been so amazing. Although Ollie pulled a missing cat on me, like the night it rained a lot, he was on the porch all day. I saw him hanging out on the porch, saw his little orange ears every time I looked over there, poking up. And then make sure you don't cut into this, because I've done that before where I've just been like, zoop, and I'm like, oh no. So if there's a mistake to be made, I've made it. Then it was my night to sleep in the cottage. If you don't know about this whole saga, don't worry about it. He wasn't there when I went out there, and I was like, oh, well, that's funny. He must be out prowling. Didn't come in all night. Didn't come in the morning. Did not see him till 2 p.m. the next day. I was like, what the heck, dude? I'm like looking in the rivers right now. He got me all nervous. He's not allowed to do that. I don't think I can get a sleeve here. You can see the wastefulness of this. But look at, I have all this for sleeves, so we're good. So let's do our I was about to say do our collar stand. I'm a little nervous about the, oh, I have plenty. Never mind. Because I'm changing the grain line on my collars to match the plaid on the bottom. All right, so do you guys, when you match your sleeves, what do you like to focus on? Yeah, Lynn, me too. Exactly. I usually do my placket and then the horizontals on the sides and then the center back. And then I kind of leave it there and then just see where the chips fall everywhere else, you know? No, Carrie, they don't. Are they charging people to live stream? I'm curious why you asked that. They did just release some, look at this, you guys. Wow. Let's just hope that was the end of the bolt. Oh. You just match the sleeves to each other. Hi, Mafio. The arms I dart. What dart? Do you mean the notch? You probably mean the notch. I usually just look at the, I match the sleeves to each other, and then I kind of look at where it hits the garment there. I have this weird piece of fabric over here. All right, so I'm going to cut my sleeves at the top end of this. Oh, do I want to do that or not? No. Your husband said something about it. That's so interesting. Yeah, so I saw this really interesting. YouTube's revealing a little bit more about the whole algorithm mystique. And they were like, he was like, you know, welcomed you to the video, and then he was like, don't like the video yet. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. And so he said, yeah, like sometimes you'll see videos where they have more likes than views. And so he's like, yeah, I really appreciate my viewers do that. They like the video for me, but watch time is more important, and not liking it and then leaving. And I was like, oh, whatever. I'm just sick of worrying about this stuff. Yeah, exactly, Sydney. I do that too, just like that. All right, let's get some space over here. I've never fixed my Streamlabs thing. Sorry, guys. All right, so this is how this is your front, right? And here's your armhole. And this is another weird thing about this pattern is that that's the back sleeve. This is the front sleeve. Usually when you look at sleeves, they're like this. It's not wrong, but if you are used to always seeing the front being on the right-hand side as you look at the sleeve, it's not on this case, so just note that. It is like this, right? So if this is our sleeve, let's just look at where it sews up. So this is how your body goes to the sleeve, right? So this notch on here is going to go to there. So here's the weird thing about sleeves. Your grain line changes. How do I say this? So this is the length grain going to the cross grain. That's what I want to say. So worried about making these match to the armhole is kind of, you know, walking uphill in roller skates. Okay, so don't worry about it too much. Especially like my plaid is making this look almost easy because it's it's a two-way plaid. I couldn't turn it, you know, 90 degrees. Like I can't match can I match the plaid? No. See, so this, if I laid this piece on here, see the spacing right here, this is a rectangle and it's narrower here. But that's fine. That's not, doesn't make it a two-way plaid. Or that doesn't make it one way. That makes it, you know, it's the cross grain to the length grain. It's no big deal. But so that you're just thinking about the length grain, if you could flip your pieces like this and it'd be the same, that's a two-way plaid. Okay. Yeah, me too, Carrie. I try and do it before I'm done watching so I don't forget. All right, so we can think about if you want to, I'm just giving you all the options, dragging this out as long as possible, right? So the same thing here, right? So when we're going to sew the cuff, and I feel like this whole area here, putting the cuff to the placket, is definitely another anxiety-inducing sewing step. But I'm going to get you through it, and I have a dedicated video to it. If you need to watch it over and over and you don't want to hear me yammer on all the time, that's the video for you. You want to kind of set yourself up with the fewest number of obstacles possible, right? So maybe not cutting this on a line down here because invariably you might not sew it straight. I don't sew very straight myself, so just think about that. You might want to put it in this nice big expanse of solid, you know? And maybe we think about that with our placket too. Maybe put our placket in that solid section. All we have to do is worry about this stripe in the middle once. I like that idea. What do you guys think? All right, and so, sorry, that's my sigh of why isn't the grain line in the middle of the garment? The seam allowance, I bet, is different on these underarms. I don't know. I can't see if it is or not by looking at the pattern. Maybe the sleeve doesn't get flat felled seams. In general, this notch is usually 1/4 of an inch towards the front of the middle of the sleeve. I know this is all really technical. I'm just telling you. The reason it's not on here is because there's a yoke. Okay, so we're going to put this here, and we're going to put this here. It's an experiment, right? what do we have that we can make sure we're getting straight, you know? This, we can move this around a little bit right here. Just like that. That's one of my plan. That's what I'm sticking to it. Oh. I don't know why YouTube would charge to stream. You're generating content for their platform that they get ad revenue for. Simple as that. They want you to make video that generates a lot of views. You don't get all the ad revenue they get. You only get a tiny amount. All right, so we got our pleats here. In general, the slit, and not in general, this slit is always on the back side of the sleeve. So if you're having trouble figuring out your sleeve, which is the back and which is the front, the side with the slit is always the back of the sleeve, and this is the front of the sleeve. And if you think about it, it's because, you know, when you're buttoning it up, it goes back here, right? Yeah, maybe he was just talking about something else, and it sounded like that. But I don't know where Walter's at. What? Okay. If you're doing the little button up, so this comes with a button tab, you know, like when you roll up your sleeve, and there's that little button loop there. There's the mark right here for it. So you want to make note of that. Keep your sleeve handy. Flip your sleeve so you have a left and a right. I'm going to pin this so I know that that's this side. All right. Okay. Same rigmarole. You could match your sleeves to one another. And then, I mean, they're not sewn to each other, so you don't really, you know, have to. But you could. Right. I didn't do my slit yet, and I'm not doing it yet only because of the, I don't want it to fray until I'm ready. But if I were sewing this today, I would just slit it right now. It's okay. Don't feel nervous about slitting it. Just go for it. It really is exactly what you need it to be. I know you're not going to slit it until you're ready to sew it, but I'm just saying, if you did because you're like, you know, cutting everything and you just cut into it and you're like, oh no, I shouldn't have cut that until I sew it. Don't worry about it. It'll be fine. We'll just use this to cut this one. Why not, right? Why not? Probably looks like I'm just magically coming up with this sleeve right now, doesn't it? Oh, look, lighting is just so terrible on this fabric. Magic. Oh my gosh. I don't know if D-Mac's still here, but he and I just got treated to the Cliff Notes version of the plot of Rocky Horror Picture Show by someone, and it was really funny. I will admit I have never watched it. I know a lot about it, but I've never watched it, and it was really funny hearing him. And the person who was doing it, you know, he's very educated, well-read, and so hearing his whole description was actually really good, and it was pretty good. It's like playing on one of the platforms right now, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll catch it. All right, where are we at? We are at the little bits and bobs. Home stretch, peeps. So what did we think about the yoke? Do we want it to match or would we like it on the bias? Really? That's awesome, Carrie. Do we want a diagonal plaid yoke or would we like a straight grain yoke? Penny. Bias. All right. Should we do a poll? Or are we just going to have enough votes without a poll? We do like doing the polls, though, don't we? Well, I'm just saving every scrap possible, thinking I'm going to run out, and I'm obviously not going to run out. She was like, Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice is probably disturbing for a kid. Hello, Melody. I just looked at half of your name and the other part of your name and tried to say it all at once. Beetlejuice is so good. I just saw someone's costume where a little kid did the costume where, remember that when he's at the they go to the waiting room, the couple goes to the waiting room somewhere to find out how they can become human, not human, to get rid of Beetlejuice, I think that's what it is, right? And there's that woman, the magician's assistant, sitting there, and there's like the top half of her's there, and the bottom half of her's there, and someone did a costume like that, and so the little kid's sitting there smiling on one side, but her chopped off half of her body's on the other side. I was like, oh my God. You think so, Libby? You think that's too flashy for Michael? Ooh. Wow, Charlie. That's not too flashy for him. He likes a good detail. This is a guy who let me embroider flowers on the insides of his pockets and his collar stand. He picked out flower buttons on one of his shirts. Yeah, the tiny head guy. That's really... Wow, that is a classic movie. All right, we have plenty of fabric, so I'm cutting off this chunka here. That's so funny. I mean, Winona Ryder's a baby in that movie. All right, so all these collar pieces are supposed to be on the straight grain, and I'm going to put them on the cross grain, just so you know, because I want to match my plaid too. Maybe, unless we do the bias yoke, then I won't. Hi, Janice, how's it going? All right, did you guys all just overrule Penny? Or Libby? Sorry, Penny. I'm looking at chat at the same time. So I'm going to do one straight and one bias. Just so that it calms it down a little bit. So for the straight one, we're just going to match it on one of these center plaid bits here, because that's where our pleat supposedly is going to match. But I kind of want to see, I mean, it probably doesn't really matter, but I'm just noticing how much wider this is compared to this. That's what I was looking at just now. So we'd want this, if you want it to match your yoke, right? So we're going to put this on the fabric right here. Okay. Remember that you would want to match on your seam line, but also remember that because there's a pleat, it won't match up all the way across. It'll match the center and it'll stop because the pleat's going to do this. I just don't want you to go crazy doing something and then be really disappointed, right? So here's your pleat. So look, see how the plaids now don't match here? That's what would happen if you cut your yoke right there and you're like, wait, why didn't it match? So, okay. I don't really need the inside to match. I'm just kind of, you know, making it harder on myself. That's what I'm doing, making it harder on myself. All right, so I'm gonna put, see, there's my wavy line. See? That's my wavy line. Let's pre-fold it this time. so I'm not doing it on the fly. Right? Love it when I'm consistent. You could instead focus on your shoulders matching, but you remember you have this angle here, and some pattern drafters, I don't know why they do this, put the front shoulder, I do know why they do this, but I'm not gonna get into it. The front shoulder at one angle as opposed to the back. I met a pattern drafter, he trained me on one of the CAD systems that I learned, and that's how he did it, and it drove me nuts because he had this really complicated way of doing it. It was actually really fascinating, and you could tell he was super mathy, and I loved that. He was kind of hard to be around for a really long time, and I had to do all this training with him. And I would watch him do that, so because he was really just trying to show me, like, oh, I would use this tool to do the shoulder thing. And when I saw him do the shoulder thing, I was like, I didn't say, what the heck, you do that for every shoulder? Like, that's kind of nuts. And but it was really fascinating to see him. He had such a good grip of the software, so he was kind of a delight to watch using it. I nicked my blade somewhere. Wow, so now it's not cutting. But yeah, long story longer, that's why your shoulders might not match as well, is the angle of the plaid may be a little different, or the main angle of the shoulders might be a little different, so your plaid may be a little off. Where's the heat? Okay, so we want this. That's not folding right there. There we go. Oh my gosh. What are the odds of that happening? There we go. Oh, no, that is, okay. I'm crazy. I thought it looped back on itself. Oh no. These pins are not the best for this. They keep bending. All right, sorry. There we go. Like that. Oh, well that'll make your blade off doing that. I just spent so much time getting this symmetrical, and this is on the inside of the garment. That's awesome, Elizabeth. Yeah, it is true. I think that is something to be said about that, because you spend so much time in some of those programs sometimes, and you are maybe the only one who uses it. And all of a sudden, you'll figure out how to use a tool completely differently, or for some other task, and you'll cut out like 4 clicks. That's what I call them, 4 steps or 4 clicks. And you just want to look around the room like, did you guys see that? You know, it is kind of, I'm sure that's how like people who use Illustrator and all the, you know. But with CAD, the program is so, it's just a totally different way to think because it's 3D. So I think the best way to cut this on the bias would actually be to use this the piece I already cut. And I say that because now I don't have to put it on the fold. So this bias, or this plaid, is not square, right? It's rectangular, so we may get some funny things. So you can see, like, this right here is not a square. It's a rectangle. So what do? We could pick, like, some of these lines to line up on. Like say I'm picking this point and this point here. So the hoodie has a lot of pattern pieces. I'm not surprised. So let's look at, do I put this here? Because see, look, this to this point here is not it's straight, but it's not directly across from itself. So you're going to have to make some mental compromises. I'm trying to decide what I like. I think what I like is, you know what, I'm going to kind of put it a little differently on the bias. I'm going to focus on getting these 3 across. So I'm going to put it not on the perfect 45-degree angle. That's my plan. So let's look at it this way. If I put the bottom of this stripe to the bottom of this corner and the bottom of this stripe to the bottom of this corner, and then maybe shift it a little bit, kind of have a maybe a visually symmetrical piece. It's going to play a trick on the eyes to get it symmetrical. I don't think I've ever done it that way before, so it'll be a good experiment. We're just chewing up the fabric. All right, I'm going to protect this bias piece inside here. Now we have our collars. You got this, Sydney. Is it? I mean, it's definitely a lot of plaid. Let's see here. We have, this is the selvage here. I haven't really decided what to do for the collars. I would like to use these scraps though, but what do we think? I kind of want to match. I don't have to worry about matching the collar because we just did it on, I mean the yoke, because we just did it on the bias. So I could just do the straight, the length grain. That would be the best use of fabric. This plaid kind of terrifies me for a collar, to be honest. Do I put maybe the like a little bit of the point here? So it's just like this is my collar. I kind of like that. Maybe half and half. I'm going to do half and half. Half and half. That's what I'm doing. I'm being decisive. This is the neck side. So when it says collar stand attaches here, that's the neckline. So this is how the collar is going to look on the body, like this. So see those hands pointing at each other there? That is how it is, like that. All right? So you see how it says collar stand attaches here is right here and it's upside down. This is how your collar is going to look. So if you need to do some fabric picturing, that's how it goes. Under collar goes like this. Like that. All right. So when the collar is, when you pop your collar, it looks like this. That's the under collar. I think that I may have confused you by the end there, but okay. All right, we're gonna do this half and half. Maybe let's do this like this. We're gonna do these as if they're a mirror image of each other. They aren't, but we're gonna pretend like they are. The burb hits in for you. Burb. So remember, you have your seam allowance here, and I think this pattern actually has 1/4 inch seams, which is such a nice thing for the collar and neckline. So if you really wanted these to be kind of a mirror image, remember you'd have to do this one here, and then this one way over here. You'd probably have to shift your seam point to be in the middle of this line. I don't think you have to worry about any of that. I'm just giving you these as options because I want you to not have any surprises. I'm being very, very thorough. And we may still have some surprises. Can I get this all the way down? Oh, I can. Okay. Putting my center down the middle of this plaid here. Center point. Center point. Center point, center point. Your under collar is slightly smaller. That's good. All right. So, you know what I bought yesterday? I bought one of those wefty needles. Hi, Robin. How's it going? Sorry, it's kind of a try-hardy stream. Why are there 61 people in here? Is this actually interesting? I'm really being nerdy about the plaid matching. You guys like that? Nerdy / paranoid. But welcome. Thanks for saying hi. I personally think that for your collars, outer and under collar, that you don't really need the notch that's on the edge that says there's no collar stand. So there's a center notch here where it says collar stand attaches here. I like that. I mean, I think all you need is this right here. I don't think you need this either. If this really is 1/4 inch seams, and I'm pretty sure this one is, I say just do the center. Now, if you want to be able to keep them straight, what I would do is put maybe a double notch, one on each side of the center on your under collar, and then a single notch on your upper collar. Especially like my fabric looks the same on the right side and the wrong side. I think that's plenty. And then we're going to set this aside. What is that? I was like, what is this? All right, and so I'm going to keep these pieces with it. And I'm also going to use these for the interfacing. There are separate interfacing pieces. You can totally use those. I think it's fine if they're the same size, though. And where's our collar stand? Right here. So now the collar stand, you know, you're going to see peeking out from under your collar, right? I think it's good to kind of figure out where things are at so you kind of know. So this does peek out from under your collar, right, just like this. So if this were buttoning up like this, right, there's your collar stand right there peeking out. And you also see it when your shirt is unbuttoned. You'll see a little flash there. I think that's what makes these a little bit kind of a, you know, a little anxiety inducing to sew, is because you know, well, all I need to get it to look good on the right side, but then you're like, oh yeah, okay, never unbutton your collar. No one will see the inside. But the way I sew it, I make it so that you finish on the right side, and that way you don't have to worry about that. So, and I have a dedicated video for that if you want to hear me hammer on about this when I sew it. Well, the sewing can go a lot faster than the pattern matching. So, those aren't too bad, Sarah. Is it, Chaz? Yeah, are you talking about like at the point here? Yeah, I think certain fabrics can really give you a lot of problem. Like this one right here, it's not the tightest woven fabric. So when you have something like linens, like the things we really like to make out of a shirt, they can relax. And so from between the time you cut it out and you go to sew it, it might relax a little bit, and then it may relax asymmetrically. So this side is different than this side, or maybe your upper collar is different from your under collar. And then when you go to sew it together, you're like, what the heck is going on here? So I understand that. Okay, so let's do our collar stand. And I wanted to kind of look at, like, if this is my outer collar, and that's my under collar. I think I'm just going to worry about matching the center of the collar to the center of the plaid. So here's I'm going to tell my spiel for the like 8th time today. Now remember, like this looks like this on your neck, right? So if you want to be kind to your future sewing self, I say stay away from some of these lines on here, right? Like you could, if you want, like go, ooh, this is so juicy, right? I'm going to put this point to, you know, the middle of this plaid and this point here. But now you have to worry that your seam allowances, that you hit them spot on when you sewed them and nothing went awry. And I think that that's like possible for sure, especially on a tighter woven fabric. But if this isn't your first, if this is, you know, one of your first collar stands, just be nice to yourself and try and focus like maybe here, look at this. Could I get my points both to be in this nice little olive green box? I don't think I can, unfortunately. Maybe the larger sizes could. Kind of. But look at that. At least in this case, I'm worried about vertical lines. So then you want to think about like, well, do I want to worry about this matching my placket? My placket is at the center of this, and your center is this right here, this little notch at the top of this curve. That is where your collar finishes sewing to, right there. And then that's where it overlaps to. So when it's on the person, right, your collar points don't overlap each other. They meet, right, like that. So on the person, you know, it's like this. Oh, I can't even get this around my neck, like this. I have a lot of hair, right? And remember, there's seam allowance, so it's not perfectly right there. It's like right there, but they don't overlap in real life, right? So then you gotta think about your collar stand under there. So, you know, I think I'm gonna be a little ambitious, and I'm just gonna go for the center there. Look, it does actually work that my center ends up here. I don't know if that's some sort of magical plaid thing or the sewing fairy likes me today, but we're gonna go with it. Because you don't want to just match the center of this on one side if you can't match it at the center on that side, right? Does that make sense? If you are really heck bent on your plaid here matching the placket and it's only matching at one end, you can cut your stand down the center seam, add some seam allowance to both pieces, and then place them. And then just put a seam in the center of your collar stand. No one will know. It's under the collar. And then that will make it so you can do that. Getting round seams. I don't know if I have a super secret. I'm not a shirt maker. I make a lot of shirts. I've made a lot of shirts. I do a pretty good job of making shirts. But I am no Kenneth D. King. I should watch one of his courses. It would be really fun to pick up some shirt making tips. Like the like hardcore kind. All right. So I'm just looking for this to be in the middle. And I'm sticking to this nice big juicy olive green section here. Because we are nice to ourselves. You know. Yeah, short stitch length. The woven fusible interfacing, I feel like is a really good stabilizer for stuff like this too. Doesn't add a lot of bulk. I'm going to cut these out individually too. I'm not even practicing very good rotary knife techniques today. Let's be honest. Look at that. Look at it. Looks like a completely different fabric. What do we think of that? Should we see what it looks like? See, this is the center. Oh, that's so interesting. I'm going to lay that on the I'm kind of curious to see how it's going to look. We're going to lay it on there. You can always just experiment, right? If you don't have a lot of fabric and you can't just like cut up a piece and then check it out, photocopy it. You don't even have to photocopy it in color. This pattern piece has been a little abused by my rotary knife. I can very much tell that it's maybe symmetrical still. But I do have a nice new blade. Think so, Walter? It looks like a completely different fabric. It's just so, it looks like a blanket. I like that idea though, Walter. All right. I don't have my notches on there yet, but I'm kind of curious. Let's just kind of see what it looks like with the front. All right, here's my back. Sleeves. Yoke. Pocket. Here's a front. And this is the left front. So if this is the oh, remember we didn't we went away from doing the plaid in the center. Remember? After we did our trial. So that's what it's going to look like that. I'll zoom it in for you. I wish this camera would stay straight. I'm sorry that it's probably triggering a few of you that it was very crooked. Let me zoom it in for you. That's as far as I can go, sorry. Ow, your eyeballs. There used to be a Megan that used to come to the stream a lot. She really did not like the bright. All right, so then remember this is, and there's a pleat right here too, so it's gonna go like this. It's gonna be like this. And then the collar, just the upper, yeah. That's the collar stand. It's gonna look like this right here. Like that. I'll take that. Honestly. I'll take that. Yeah. Yeah, it does, Sydney. Yeah, Karen, I agree with you. Like, the clipping thing is dicey sometimes. When the seam allowances are this small, you know, it just depends on the bulkiness of your fabric. If your fabric's kind of bulky, you're going to probably have to clip a little bit and trim. I need these. I don't know why I just put them over there. All right. So my last pieces are the cuff. I know you're like, will this ever end? The cuff and the interfacing and the placket. So out of my self fabric, we only have the cuffs. You need 4 of these if you plan to do this style cuff here. And then the interfacing, and that's it. So let's zoom out a little bit. I'll just zoom out a little bit. But let's bring that down a little bit, huh? The ye old eyeballs. Okay. Yeah, I think that was pretty serendipitous that worked out like that. By the way, My mom almost named me Serendipity. Aren't we all glad she didn't? Ceremony or serendipity? I don't know what she was thinking for either, but hey. I've embraced it. Look at how asymmetrical this pattern piece is. I'm kind of scared. I may recut this off camera if it's really bad. Oh, it's not too bad. It's just, you know, every 16th counts when your seam allowance is a 1/4 inch. So I'm gonna hand snip my notches because of that reasoning. I love it when there's a notch right here. I really, really dislike it when a pattern company doesn't give you the notch right here at the curve where the collar ends. And the reasoning behind that, if there's any pattern companies listening, is you do not start usually from the center. I do this a lot. I do start from the center, go out, and then I go center, go out. But not everybody does that. They start from one end and go to the other. If you have no place to put your collar right here, you don't know where to place it. So then you have to go from the center out, and you can get it still asymmetrically. So, not that any pattern companies are probably watching, but I've decided to for my own peace of mind, I'm going to make a page on my site that is my dream list of what I would want in patterns. The gall of it, right? The ego of me. I'm doing this so poorly right now. I know I didn't do one right here too. Yeah, there it is. Okay, there we go. All right, so we need interfacing and those and those. We need 2 of our cups. You're almost a Martha. Well, I mean, as a fellow Sarah, you know, I'm in the Sarah family, right? I like Sarah. Oh no. He let it slip. Let it slip. We'll see about that. All right, so I think the way we positioned the sleeves, don't you love that I just drag you guys in on my we? Because then I can blame you when it goes wrong, right? But the way we positioned the sleeves, I need to unpin these, is that I put that slit for the placket, I put that in the olive green part. So we're going to put these wrong sides together and we're going to pin them together. She takes the cake. I like that. I'll take a piece of cake any old day. No way, Sarah. Yeah, that's certainly a missed opportunity. My daughter, this is probably a little TMI, but my IUD failed. And so hence I have my amazing daughter. And her initial, people really wanted me to name her with a middle name that began with a U, because then her initials would have been IUD. And I was like, that's terrible. I'm not doing that. Imagine knowing at 4 years old the term IUD. I don't know. People are strange. Sorry, let me. All right, so we're just going over the nth degree of pattern matching today. That's why, you know, we're, I think this is the front. Yep, this is the front. All right, so here is my slit. All right, so now if you really want to sit there and do your cuff to match your sleeve, here's what I want you to know, that there are pleats right here at your cuff right here. So it's going to be something along the lines of like this right here, okay? So matching your cuff, and remember this edge of your cuff, just to give you some like awareness of where things are positioned, goes to this slit right here. So it lines up like this. Furthermore, this edge right here, it has a seam allowance and then it also gets turned back. So it's more like something like that. And then your seam line on your cuff goes to that edge. And then there's pleats. So matching the plaid from your cuff to your shirt is going to be kind of ambitious. So what I would focus on is more something like, maybe I'll just target my cuff to end in this olive green, and then also focus on how much of my plaid that I want actually to show on the cuff, because again, this is one of those things where you want to be kind to your future self potentially, and this is my green line here, and maybe not put your cut line along a straight line there. I have done this a billion times. Just learn from me that you're either setting yourself up to be like hyper accurate, and maybe you're wanting that kind of challenge, and I totally salute that. Or maybe you're, fixing to pull your hair out and it's Christmas Eve and you're sewing these right now. So I say, be kind to your future self. They won't know. They won't know what they missed out on. So what am I gonna do? I think I'm gonna put my cuff right here. And look, it does land on both sides. It's as if I picked this plaid out for this pattern. So different sizes are gonna land different places on your plaid. And if your plaid is not so symmetrical, there's lots of variables. So yeah, I think I'll just plan on that. And maybe we do the half on, half off thing again. What do we think? Do we want... I kind of want all plaid. Let's go for it. I'm being like Miss Cautious today, so let's challenge myself on this one here. You don't have to sew it, right? So I'm just gonna put. I could also do this. Find the center of my cuff. Remember, this spot right here is like under the arm. No one's gonna see that, right? But if you want your cuff to be symmetrical, that will help you. I need 4 of these puppies. All right, just fast forward this part. If you're short on fabric, remember you only need 2 of these to look like this to the world, right? Look at that little whoop-de-doo there. Lovely, lovely. Let's trim that down a little bit. So I know people are probably going to start taking off. Next week, I'll be sewing this on Wednesday and Thursday. I'm sorry, those are weekdays for some folks. I mean, they're weekdays for everybody, but I'm sure some people are working during that. It will be uploaded, though, just so you know. And we're sewing part 1 on Wednesday and part 2 on Thursday. We had a free day today, so I shifted this stream to be starting today rather than Wednesday. I can get one of these here. I'm just going to make my cuffs. Ooh, can I? I mean, yeah, no. All right. Don't forget your interfacing. What else do I not want you to forget? You're cutting this out with me. Okay, that's cutting it too close. Maybe up here? Chaz, that wiser words have never been spoken by a sewist. You know, I would like show up to my book club. This was a long time ago when I was in a book club of really close friends. Look how bad I cut this. Oh, this is the piece that had the cut. That was the one I just cut. So the edges was kind of janky a little bit. But you know, I'd be like excited about something I sewed. I've been sewing for a long time, so I don't know why I still got excited, but, or maybe people would just say, oh, you know, did you make that? Whatever, right? And they're my friends, so I would tell them. But the first thing I would do is be like, well, I could have done this, I could have done that, blah, blah, blah. And one of my friends at the time gave me advice, and it really, it was the right moment for me to hear it. And she just said, you know, Sarah, every time you show us something you made, you always instantly start pointing out all of the mistakes. And I just want you to know, none of us even noticed that, and we wouldn't have. And I think that it's okay if you just say thanks, and that's it. Like, you deserve that. And it's totally fine. Like, if you want to, you know, tell us, but you don't, we can't tell. So if you just want to bask in it. And I think that was good, because I think also, like, for a lot of women, we do tend to kind of off-put, like, we kind of just play down any compliments and things, you know, for skill. So it was a good lesson. And I think the other thing is, then you can just say, like, if you're at the grocery store, you can choose. Do you say thanks when someone says, oh, that's a nice shirt you're wearing? Do you say thanks, or do you say thanks, I made it? Those two differences might shape the next months of your life, so you've got to be careful. Do I also pattern match to the bottom of the sleeve? Do you mean for the cuff to the sleeve? I just went over that, Penny, and I'm not going to, because there's pleats in the sleeve and there's that slit. So what I decided to do was match the olive green section right here, where the cuff overlaps, to where the slit is. So in other words, I only matched right here. I didn't match it with the repeat of the plaid. I decided to put plaid fully on the cuffs. So I only matched this part right here. And you can't really tell on here, but my slit is landing in this. So basically right here. All right. Last thing to consider matching. Aw, thanks for subscribing, Chaz. Sorry that scared me. I startled. All right, so the last thing we're going to look at is the slit with the tower placket. So like I said, I'm going to be doing the tower placket. If you're just doing the bias placket, don't worry about any matching at all. You just need a little piece of bias that is, I think, about 1.5 inches wide, and whatever this is, it's probably written in the directions. So yeah, you need about 2 pieces that are, I'm going to say, like 12.5 inches long by 1.5 inches wide. And you're going to only see that little strip of bias on one side of the placket. The other one's going to be folded under. So you can pick where you want to do it, what you want to do. This one also has a piece of bias, I'm pretty sure, right? All right, we'll cut that later. We'll cut this, when we get to this, we'll do all of it at once. So do you want this to match? Now remember, oh, Ray, thanks. I appreciate it, Ray. I like that amount. Nice, Carrie, good for you. Yeah, heck, you made it, right? Okay, so now on this placket, there it is, Ray. This right here, oh, look at the little cat behind my pattern piece. This is right here, the part that's going to show to the world. So this is that tower placket. And so we can look at it on the sleeve. I just don't want you guys to drive yourselves crazy matching everything. So here it is right here, right? Go over to the light a little better. It's a little rumpled. The other sleeve's open, I think. Here we go. So this right here, and remember, look at this pattern piece before. You see these corners are going to get turned down. So you really are just looking at this little triangle, the little house. That's all it's going to show to the world in honor of Nancy. Yeah, nice. So if you maybe you want your plaid, you know, on the bias there. If you're going to do your placket on the bias, make sure you interface it. And it's still going to be a little bit tricky. So pick your battles, you know. I put mine intentionally inside this olive green section right here, right? This nice long olive green. So we're just going to worry about the horizontal plaid right here. See that? So let's just draw on our placket here where that's at. Like that. And so now I know my horizontal plaid. All right. I have such a messy cutting table today. This piece, trying to conserve a little bit here and there. I mean, come on, Jeremy. This piece will work right here, I think. So like I said, we're focused on the house right here, right? And then we're gonna line up these lines on that plaid there like this. So let's just put that fully centered in this olive green section right here, and then our lines. And let's see if we can make sure that this is fairly straight across. Like that. Fabric is wiggly. I don't think I've ever done this much pattern matching on one of these before. Definitely done pattern matching before. I kind of like it, but some things, you know, I've told you guys all the story about that boss I had that was really, really into the matching, and it was for these mother-daughter dresses, and we were doing these tartan holiday ones. So I'm just doing the other side now. Right, yeah, like that. And he really wanted, they were pleated skirts, very simple bodice. Pleated skirts in a really small tartan plaid. The plaid was probably about 5/8 of an inch wide, and the spacing was like 1/2 inch between each. But it was a two-way plaid. He wanted every pleat to match on every skirt, on every size, all the way around the bodice and to the bodice. Not to the bodice, just to around, no, he did. He wanted them to match to the bodice. Yeah, he wanted it to match to the bodice. And it was pretty frustrating. I was really glad I wasn't the cutter. But he would say, you know, he had worked somewhere where he had used to make design parts for really big, like Boeing, I think, which is an airplane manufacturer here in the States. And he would say, Jeremy, I put parts on the moon. We should be able to make this plaid match. I was literally 18 years old and, you know, a first-year student, and I was like, okay. I don't have all the answers for you. I'm just like a good sewer. Do nothing but sew the same simplicity shirt over and over, hoping to eventually be good at shirt making. Well, I hope you're picking different fabrics so you get different results, so you're not hard on yourself. And what is lerve? Did I miss it earlier? Did someone ask that? I think that means love. Wait a minute. Are you saying cover stitch makes your life complicated? Yeah, definitely stick around. We love going over things like that, Chaz. Definitely. What did I just do with my other one? Did I just throw this in the scrap pile? Did I literally just... What did I just do with that? Here it is. I just dropped it. It's okay. Everything's okay. Okay. But I definitely make mistakes. Yeah, the flat filling, though, is pretty fun and easy. Libby's got the lerve. Got the lurve. Oh, maybe she said she had to leave? Oh, officially in love. She's in love. You just finished, I didn't see that. You finished the 12 for the Tropicana shirt. Nice. Oh, you're cutting the Hug hoodie. I love that pattern. I would love that someday. Did he really, Amy? How come? Was reform school like a disciplinary thing? She lurves it. Come on, Ray. You know what that means. I feel like I've heard you say that. All right, that's all our pattern pieces. Did you guys survive? We just need some interfacing. I'm going to cut it right now. You don't have to stick around for that. I'm going to use fusible woven interfacing. I'm kind of a big fan of it now. Don't forget to cut your placket piece and interfacing for the shirt. You only need one. Oh yeah, flat fell foot. That's a good question, right? I use an industrial machine, so I don't have all those fun feet. Why? I don't know why I just did that. There we go. If you're using a fabric that's a little bit unstable or something, you can do things like put it in the hem of your pocket. Put interfacing in the hem of your pocket. Boy, I don't know why we need so much of that stuff. All right. This pattern piece is symmetrical, so if you're using fusible, it doesn't matter which way it goes up while you're cutting it. This is, it's a good question. It's Pellon. So it's the SF101. Can you see that? That is not a cut. I used that to mark something earlier. So SF101, it's called Shape Flex. I don't know. I kind of drone on about interfacing sometimes because I usually like fabric. I'm not a big fan of gluing things to my projects, but I got some of this in one of my Needle Sharp subscription boxes when I was a subscriber, and then Hearts Fabric sent me some for one of their projects. And I just love the way the fabric feels when you interface it. It really does make a big difference. I sound like an ad, but it really does. I really like it. It's not cheap though, so I use every little bit of it. I just bought a ton of it at the store. I bought like 4 yards. So, ooh, my screen just flickered. Did it flicker for you? Oh no, I just pushed my mouse. That's what it is. I want this. I want the chat. There we go. All right, we got that. Oh, I didn't see CD bags. You never flat fell, you surgeon fell? So do you serge it and then hem it over it? I think you could totally do that. As long as it's not like the texture of the serger thread will show through the fabric. That probably makes it nice and even, and you won't have to trim the edge. I love that. Yeah, you're welcome. No problem. Hey, Christina. Yeah, right, Christina? I know people say block fuse, and I'm like, what kind of... That's some money you got there. So this, by the way, any question is welcome here. There's no dumb question. I know that everyone says that, but it's really true because I think when you come at sewing, you come at it from different angles and you learn via different ways. You learn through classes or people, on your own, you're self-taught, YouTube, in pattern envelopes. There's all kinds of ways, maybe through Instagram, whatever. Maybe you came through it from quilting and now you're a garment sewer. Maybe you were a bag maker. Maybe you made stuffed animals, whatever it is. So not all of the things every sewist uses, it is used in every different genre of sewing. So never feel like you can't ask a question here. So I'm just going to explain what this is that most people, when they use fusible interfacing, they're using straight up Pellon fusible interfacing, which is this stuff right here. 911 FF, fusible featherweight. It is not featherweight, it's kind of heavy. And it has these little dots. You may have seen that. Can you see those dots? Maybe on my fingers. It is more affordable. They're all narrow though, like this. But that is like it's like this fiber that those fusible dots have been applied to. Whereas this, the difference, is this is an actual cotton fabric and they put those fusible dots to fabric, not a non-fabric, a non-woven. That would be called a non-woven. It's not knit, but it's not a non-woven. So, yeah, and then in block fuse is when people will take all their pieces, if they have a lot, they lay them all out on the yardage, iron it on. No. That's not how you do it. You take a big piece of fabric, fuse the fabric to the interfacing, and then cut out your pattern pieces. It is more accurate, it's more accurate to have your pieces that way, and it feels a little easier to cut it, and then you're only cutting once, but then you're using a lot more interfacing. So, yeah, so your flat felt seems much flatter. I just use Olfa's, and I don't buy the off-brand ones. People say they work good. They've never worked good for me. Yeah, so you attach fabric to the interfacing and you basically make a piece of fused fabric. And good for you, Karen P. Olfa, yep. It might be linked in the description of the video. Thanks, Dev. Yeah. All right, let me cut this out. So also I want to say the difference between these two, one of the main differences is that this has a grain line and that one doesn't. You could put that diagonal, you could put it everywhere because it's not fabric. This does have a grain line, so you would probably want to respect that. All right, so can I get two of these? And I'm, just to say again, I'm not actually using the pattern pieces for interfacing on this project. I'm just using my pattern pieces, not the interfacing pattern pieces. And I'm only doing that just because I just wanted it to be simpler to cut, so. I should have at least cut one of those out there. I find this stuff fuses really well too. Now, if you have some and you're like holding it precious and it's been sitting in your thing for 5 years, and you know, I hear you. It may not fuse as nicely, but I haven't had a problem yet. But I have heard of people saying that, and that's the same with any of these fusible weird things. The dots might get a little bit old, you know. Let's see, can I get... This pattern has you fuse the upper and under collar. I'm going to do that because the fabric isn't very thick. But if your fabric's really thick, like this flannel here, I think I didn't use any, and it's fine. It's a very thick flannel compared to the one I'm using. Just use your judgment. You might even test it on some fabric. It really does change it. And this is much thinner, but it still gives the fabric a lot of stability. And that's what I like about it. I love the way the fabric feels with it. I love the way the fabric feels with this so much. I want to fuse the entire garment. You would never do that though. That would be really weird. All right, so we have our top collar. And like I said, I am going to do the under collar like they suggest. And I'm just going to do one collar stand, but I'm tempted to do both. Like I said, it might make it really thick. Night, Malin. See you later. Right, Karen, me too. You think you'll pass on the projectors? Oh man, I've been sewing for 35 years and I the idea of the projectors is really appealing for space saving, but I'm kind of feeling the same way, Karen. I just don't feel like dealing with one more piece of technology in my life. The stream is already enough with all the other things I'm having to do with sewing, you know? You know, I don't know, Cozy. I tend to feel like they might not be, and I say that only because we've tried buying non-Olfa brand blades for Olfa rotary cutters, and it says, you know, save by buying these, you know, non-Olfa brands, great reviews, blah, blah, blah. And they're like non-Olfa brand, but they're designed for an Olfa blade, and they don't even work that great. They don't last that long. So, you know, rotary blades are so expensive. It's hard to say experiment on it. So I don't really know. But if you find out, I'd love to know. Let me know what you find, you know. Yeah, CD, I have. I think that's a good thing to do. Terry, did we really have to tell you that, though? I've told you the story of the, like, I had my daughter, right? And I got asked, I don't know why. I got asked, I do know why, but I got asked by my college, FITM, that I went to school at. They wanted me to come and speak to the school or the fashion design program about different avenues they can take their career, but really in the same vein, but different genres, not just fashion, because I was in the outdoor industry at the time. I'd started in fashion and moved to outdoor industry, and I loved it. And they wanted to hear and see examples of some of the crazy stuff we did, and if you were kind of interested in that, blah, 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 right? So you don't have to just do fashion, you know? And I also did children's wear, which is another like subgenre, which is, it's huge though. And so I had my daughter. Now, I didn't want to say no, but I had just had my baby. And so I had to fly with her because I was nursing. And she was there's like 3 months old, and I had to fly with her. And I wore a black shirt thinking, oh, I want to wear black so nothing shows. And oh my God, it looked like I had been in a burlap sack with 12 snails by the time I got out of that plane. And I had to... I was only flying in California, from the top of the California to the bottom of California, and I had to change my shirt halfway through because there was just, yeah. So not even mention like dog hair or stuff like that, or cat hair. You got to buy your clothes the same color as your animals. You know that rule, right? So, yeah. Yeah. How I missed Chaz's thing. Let's see if I can scroll up a little bit. Yeah, you put your stuff where the kids can't forget where you put them. You need like one, spot. You always are doing that. I know. Okay, so where are we at? We have everything. We have our collar stands. We have our collar. We have our cuff. We have our interfacing. These are all our interfacing pieces plus the placket. We have our sleeve placket and our sleeve. I like to just put these pieces together. Our pocket and our yoke. We have our right and left fronts. This is the back though. This is one front and here's the other front. Like this and like this. All right, so here's our fronts. Put our pocket with that. This is how I'm going to stack my things in my bin. We're going to do the pocket first and the placket. Here's my placket right here. Then we're going to assemble the yoke to the back. If this isn't the order the pattern goes in, I'll switch it up. This is usually how I do it. So then you have your fronts done, you have your back done. Then we're going to put our collars together. And then we do our sleeves. Put our cuffs with our sleeve and our placket. So this is the order of how I do it. I usually put it in the bin that way. Let's take these out with our sleeves. Oh, I can tell you more about this mammoth plaid. I've got this thing. Well, they don't say what it's called, but the color is Adventure. I was looking at it yesterday. So the color for this is Adventure. And that's a really long number. Well, shoot. I'll link to it in the description. But it's SRKF-19666-267. That is not the number I used when I linked it on Minerva. All right, so I'm going to put my sleeve down at the bottom. I put my collar stand, and then I put my fronts and all that. And then we're set. And then I'm putting this pattern back into a sleeve. I know I say I am a really messy sewist, but I am very tidy when it comes to putting stuff away. I put things away right away. And you even see me do it on stream. Oh, shoot. Talk cat hair. Oh, man. Ooh, we made some lunch. All right, we're set. How many of you guys are making one? Anyone else making a Fairfield? I was gonna say Fairfax. My interfacing away. I got pieces everywhere right now. I'm gonna tape together one of these this afternoon before the Zoom. And cut 2 more out today. You have 3 more cut, Terry? I thought you'd made this one, Walter. No, not yet. You've been practicing that, put stuff away. Yeah, it's good, especially the iron. Just because I rent, I don't want it ever to be my problem. So let's see, I don't really have any other prep to do on this. I'm going to iron the interfacing on before the stream because this is pretty straightforward. Whereas something like some plackets, like the one, this shirt right here, the Deer and Doe Blue A, this is the Deer and Doe Mellow Low. You fuse the interfacing like away from the edge. So I'll show you, because if you have one of those, make sure that's how you do it. I'll show you why. I'm really trying to keep my fabrics face up here. So some patterns will have you do it like this, where say that you just get this long strip, it's a long skinny piece of interfacing, and then you fuse it like here. And the reason you do that usually is because once you folded it over and stitched it, that's against the right side that shows to the world. You don't want to fuse it to this side that's showing to the inside of the garment. You want it to show on the nicer side. Oh my God, I can't talk today. But so just make sure you note that if it's a long, narrow piece, if your placket folds, you know. It looks nicer on the outside, and it will give that good stability for your buttons and buttonholes. Yes, you are now, Karen. Oh, you're making the Tawari shirt from Muna and Broad. I like that shirt. I think that's a really cool shirt. I'd love to make one of theirs, especially for everybody who sews them. I'd like to make their noise jeans. I don't think they come in my size, but I'd still love to make them. That would be awesome. They look really good too. Let's see what else. I think that's it for you guys. That's it. Oh, I know what I was going to tell you about the wefty needle. So for those of you who don't know, I'm about to start selling binding, and I had a bunch cut, and all the rolls came in. And I've got the listing almost done. So you'll probably, if you're on my newsletter list, you'll find out sooner. I'm going to have it by the roll individually. I'm going to have just a few listings that is all the rolls in one, and it'll be like a 20% discount. And then I'm going to have a few that are cut pieces. I'm not going to have very many of those, but I'm going to have some packs where you can get 3 yards each of every binding. So it's kind of hard. Like I have to like decide how many rolls I want for each of these things, because you can't adjust inventory on the fly. It'll yank things out of people's carts. So I have to kind of decide at the beginning. But I decided that I want to try, you know, do any of you follow Mr. Domestic on Instagram, or have you ever seen him? He weaves with bias. I've always wanted to try it, so I bought one of those wefty needles, and I'm going to try it. So I think that'll be kind of fun if you guys want to try that along with me. I'll probably have to get some solids to go with it so you can really see the effect that the binding does when you weave it. I'd love to try it though, so... All right, well, that's it for me today. I think that's everything. I feel like there was something else I was going to show you guys or tell you, but I can't think of what it is, so I'm sorry. But anyway, thanks for coming. It was nice to see all of you. I'm really glad so many folks came today. Yeah. George and Ginger, paranoid? Wait, what? What is that? Christina? Is any of that a typo, or is there actually a pattern called the paranoid? I'm going to Google it right now. Where's my, oh, there it is. If it's there, I'll show you. George and Ginger. Oh no, you're right, it is something. Oh, the paranoid flannel shirt. Okay, here, I'll show you guys. Me and computer, right? Yep. Oh, there you go. George and Ginger. How did you find this pattern? I've never even heard of these folks. Old school sewing patterns. Because of the grunge thing? Do they do grunge for all their things? What is that right there? What is that line right there? Wait a minute. I cannot see the shirt. Wait, what is going on there? It's not a button down. This line drawing isn't helping me. Oh, wait, that's the yoke seam at the back. There's just no buttons and buttonholes? It has projector files. It's a lot of bullets. I would like a good picture, please. This doesn't really... Oh, so it is a button down. And you definitely wouldn't want to match your plaids for the grunge, right? This looks like it's on the fold, doesn't it? Like a popover placket, which I like. Well, that looks nice. It's very loose. Oh, I love this fabric. Wait, what's going on with the cuffs? Is it at an angle? Or oh, I see. She's got them folded up. Oh, see, I see. Okay. Okay. Look at all this plaid. Oh my gosh, this was my sister, you guys. There's only plaid. Look at all these. This is awesome. I'll give you guys a link to this. Whoops, I gotta see the... Whoops, this is the chat. The chat's over here now. It's named after songs. Oh, that's awesome. Why is it, do you mean you're finishing? It's not the pattern, right? It's just line is an artifact. Oh, okay. Yeah, you're welcome, Cozy. Thanks for coming. Let's see. New age sewing pattern. Oh, old size. Oh, I see. Old school sewing pattern. Wait a minute. Don't you just hate watching me process stuff? What is this? Oh, they do fabrics? Wait, what is going on here? Oh, it's like merch. Okay, okay. Look at all the detail in these. This is pretty cool. I want to see the patterns though. So there's two separate pattern things. Okay. And these are cute covers, but I just wish the picture was really big, and I wish this was a flat sketch. See, that would be on my list. This is not a flat sketch. I can't see what's happening. Is it a halter? Oh, it is a halter. I just cannot see. This is a good mood, but there can't see what's happening. This is interesting. Okay, so that looks like the hug hoodie. The heck? See, all of this right here, these dress forms, I understand it's branding, but I want it gone, and I want a line drawing. I want a technical line drawing. Oh yeah. Let me whine. Oh, then, okay, so there's another size chart, and it's like they're probably building it. Well, that's cool. I've never heard of these folks. Well, thanks for turning me on to that. Here we go. See you, Walter. I probably didn't get to say goodbye. It has a 1/4 inch seam allowance and not a double yoke. What? Ray's always in support of any ridiculous thing I say. You know, if she goes against me one day, things have really gone sideways. That's pretty cool. They did, so they redid their size chart. So they're not just trying to do 2 different ones. That must be so much work for them. Wow. Yeah, that is kind of a bummer, Christina. I mean, you could, yeah, you can't really add another yoke at this point, huh? Ah, that's a bummer. I'm trying to think. I mean, maybe you could bind it, but you probably already top stitched it. And that's awesome that they're sizing. They have a lot of sizes. Yeah, that's not, I would understand that because that's a lot of work. Wait till you guys see how I sew the yoke. Some of you are going to hate me because I don't do the burrito method. I have nothing against it. I've never even done it. I just have a certain way I like to do it. You're going to burrito world. Yeah. Yeah. Well, there you go. See, Revolution. Sarah, man, Sarah's Ray's biggest fan. No, I'm just teasing. Yeah. So, there's nothing wrong with doing the burrito roll thing at all. I just never learned to do that. I figured this way out on my own, and it works really good. So you can just see a different way to do it. So, right? Exactly. All right, guys, I'm going to go eat. I have a Zoom with some of you guys at 4 o'clock in a couple hours. I'm looking forward to that. So hopefully see whoever, I don't know who is there today. I wait for it to be a surprise. I don't, but I just don't remember. So thanks for coming. And if you're new here, consider subscribing and hanging out. I live stream Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, almost always. I usually cut Wednesday, so Thursday, Saturday. Things have been a little different lately. I feel like I've been saying that a lot lately. And I have a Patreon if you want to support me, and there's different levels. But I also sell a few patterns. What else was I going to say? Yeah, so liking and commenting after the video is uploaded is really helpful too. And all these do get uploaded, and if you want easy ways to make them faster, just watch the beginning of any of the live streams, and I give a ton of ways to make it faster. If you ever want to make timestamps for a video, let me know. I would love that. What I can do is make it easy for you and give you the steps, and you just write down the time next to it and I type it up. So, and that really helps everybody. So if you're already going to watch something and you want to do timestamps, but if it already has timestamps, look in the description and you can just jump to that spot if you only want to see one spot of something being sewn. So, oh, ramen sounds so good. I have ratatouille, leftover ratatouille. It's one of our go-to things I like to make. It's so easy, so satisfying. So, look how washed out. Wearing white, not my good thing. I hacked my hair today too. I just did it like this in the mirror. I was desperate, but I like it. It feels so much better. All right, guys. See you Wednesday. Have a great weekend. Happy fall or spring, no matter where you are. So I'll see you guys soon. Bye.